Hello, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of FMTraining.tv, where every day, Monday through Friday at this time slot, ooh, it's a helicopter. Here it comes. Sorry,
Problems
my
of you
bad.
being at the airport.
We are at Austin Executive Airport for the time being. We've been moving aircraft around, doing all the and sundry stuff. So anyway, welcome to FMTraining.tv, where don't talk about helicopters mostly. And if we do, it's like that old meme that you folks saw that if I see a helicopter, I'm instantly distracted. We are here at Claris Engage, which is another word of saying the Claris FileMaker Developer Conference, which kicks off. Realistically, it starts tomorrow. The people who are setting it up are busily setting it up today. It kicks off tomorrow. For some of us, it kicks off at like 8 in the morning. I'm part of that group. For the general attendees, it will kick off in the evening with the keynote address. The keynote address is going to be interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff in it. I have continued to have meetings with Claris to review the materials that they're presenting. I think it's green lights across the board. I'm encouraged by what they're saying. I'm very excited about it. The broadcast schedule, Margaret still hasn't updated this. We're hoping that Margaret does that. We're going to be discussing functions. Nick Hunter is TBD, to be determined, the TDY, temporary duty assignment. He is overseas an undisclosed location working on a FileMaker solution for a customer that's having some issues. And so the live streams, as important as they are, there's other people who can cover them, and I will be covering them for the time being. So today we're going to be continuing the conversation about functions. If you want to support the channel and you appreciate what we do, then feel free to roll up a stack of $20,000 and put it in the mail to me, or just go to our training bundles, which Margaret's about to push the button on, show you where that's at. Push the training bundles button, purchase one of the bundles. And even if you don't use the bundle, that's your way of ensuring that Margaret can be paid. And we appreciate the positive feedback from you. Almost all the people here watching on a daily basis are live stream subscribers. We appreciate these subscriptions, we really do. All right, so today's conversation, we're continuing the conversation. So let's talk about functions today. It's kind of boring compared to like keynotes and what's going on. Functions are things that you call in code or in your scripts or in your calculations that do things, that return something special. The short version is that like if you type a function called get and then you put parentheses current date on it, you're going to get a function that will talk to the operating system on the computer, and it will generate the current date for you. So there you go, little quickie. There you go, very nice. And if you run that, that will generate the current date. Okay, that's what the functions do, things like that. You ask for them, you might give them a couple parameters, some little input, and then like the one that I keep talking about, and I'm always kidding when I say it, but it'd be really great if you had get and then brackets current winning lottery numbers, or the winning lottery numbers for this week or this date, right? Doesn't exist, but that's the kind of thing it does for you. Makes your life much easier. Yeah, there's no get parentheses lottery, right? Yeah, LOTT, current winning lottery numbers. Yeah. So yeah, it does not exist. So moving along. So so Nick last was talking about the replace command, substitute command. That was from last week. On last Wednesday, there were some audio issues with that. That video is being cleaned up today. I talked to the video editing team about that. We're going to trim off all the front end shenanigans. So let's talk about the trim function. So this used to be on the certification test. There's trim and TrimAll. Okay. So if you go to trim, and Margaret, bring up the help real quick so we can read through this. You're going to want to vacillate back and forth. You just put the text in, and what it does, it trims out typically leading and trailing spaces, right? And so if you scroll down, you see an example, scroll down. So if you trim, so they have a function here that would generate, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It would trim, it would bring back William with the space after it, okay, which could be a problem. Having trailing spaces, a lot of us sometimes we inadvertently put like try to log into our Windows or Mac computer, and you put a space at the end of the password by accident, and it won't log in. You don't have any idea why that is, or something's wrong. It's because there's a space back there, right? So trim allows us through a script command to forcibly trim the spaces, okay? This was on the test. It's very useful. It can be helpful. Once again, not necessarily by itself, but when used in conjunction with other stuff. So at the first example there says it trims the front and leading space after that, okay?
So wait, does it automatically identify spaces, or does it just trim the front and the back, and you better hope you didn't?
No. It looks for a space on the front and the back, and then it removes them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
right,
it's
right.
specifically looking for spaces.
Yeah, on the front and the back. It won't do them through the middle. If you want to do that, that's that substitute function where you tell target a space and just get rid of it or something, right? That substitute is kind of like a carpet bombing for everything, where trim is the leading and trailing space. Okay, so it's like a very specific version of the substitute command. All right, so let's move to trim all, which is the next function right behind this, Margaret. There it is, trim all. It's a newer function. So let's see, returns a copy of text with specified space to remove or insert it. That's interesting. Description, use trim all to I don't think I've ever used this function, to trim all to work with spaces between text and non-Roman characters. Trim function, set trim spaces to 1 if you want to remove full width spaces, set trim space to 0 if you want to keep full width spaces. So I guess there's these half width spaces. Is Ruben there? Labo? Any of you folks that have you used this with half spaces versus full space? For me, a space is space. It's bad generally, but
Labo's
there are.
here. Ruben's not here. So.
Okay, any of you more people with more advanced skill sets? Does it have to do with encoding, right? Character considered. Yeah, here we go. Down here. Characters, run range, Latin. Yeah, I don't know that I've ever used trim all. But once again, it has to do if you want the issues of half encoded spaces or not. Anyone here has used this?
Yeah,
Raise your hand.
It's for other languages.
That may be why I didn't use it. I don't think it's on the test. One thing I can say that
Labo says they haven't used it a lot, just for very specific cases.
Okay, well, you have to decide if you want. If you roll down here, then these are the values you can insert. So removes all spaces between non-Roman and Roman characters, leaving one space for Roman words, allows include half spaces. So there's all sorts of things you can put in here, right? You can put the value up to 4 different values here. Removes all spaces everywhere, right? Option 3. So option 0, 1, 2, 3. Interesting, eh? So
yeah, this is kind of
this is one of those that just remember in the back of your mind, there's trim.
Oh, full width spaces are only present in some non-Roman languages, such as Japanese.
Yeah, right. So this is a language thing. This is what I'm saying is this is one of those things put in the back of your mind. If someone starts talking kung fu about half spaces and full spaces, you know, the back of your mind that, hey, Richard said some shit about that. Where is that at? And where do I go find that? It's trim all. Okay. Next function we're probably not going to spend a lot of time on because I think it's more of a dedicated conversation about virtual lists. But if you bring up unique values, so unique values is basically returns the unique values of a list based upon specified data. So if you have a list, and remember, let's define list for all the beginning and intermediate developers. Margaret, if you go to a text, just go into bring up your notebook if you can, or text notes or something on that computer. There we go. Okay, so create a new note. So type doggy, and then hit return, and then Fred, and then wow, that's nice. Fred, red, blue. Come up with some things in there. Okay, this is a list. The fact that the top one is bold don't worry about that. This is a list. It's a value, and also a value could be Fred Flintstone. Put the word Flintstone behind Fred's word name up there. Flintstone. Okay. That is value position 1. Then there's value position 2 is red, then blue is 3, purple's 4. So a lot of what we do in advanced FileMaker work is managing lists. Managing a list or virtual list allows us to essentially overcome maybe limitations in the platform. This function allows you to get you a unique set, not so much on this, because you can look at this and see that red is not in there 5 times. But if you had a list, maybe of 500 or 1,000 items, you could just give me the unique values and make sure that nothing in there is repeated. That's what this does. Okay. So that's what lists are. Then unique lists, it's the unique values of the list. It's fairly new. The list thing came into its existence, probably about FileMaker 15 or so. And then Claris started adding additional features. There's filter values. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do with virtual value lists. That's itself is probably a conversation.
It's basically to help you get rid of duplicates, basically?
Yes. So it removes duplicates, right?
Okay. And then what does locale mean in this?
What does it say it does? Locale, the data and the values see below. I don't know. Locale, is it language? Could be a language.
Set the locale parameter to the language. Oh, so it's for Unicode, I guess.
If you don't specify, it probably defaults to Unicode. Normal Unicode would be my guess, right? So you can scroll down. Yeah, see, normally you just put, so what's 2? Go back up. So what's, hang on. So go back up the top. Let's take a look at this. So it's the values and the data type. Okay. Data type specifies the type of data and the values see below. Scroll down. What's data type? We need to see what the data type is. Data type and locale work the same as those with sort values function, except that go to sort values function. Click on that because it's going to make us reference that. Okay. Data type, a number that specifies the type of data to be sorted. A positive value sorts in ascending order, a negative in a descending order. So it's going to put a sort on it. All right, I guess.
Okay. So it automatically sorts the information for you.
Yeah. And if you go back to the previous message on the unique values, so that's why this is what I was asking you how Nick was presenting these, because ideally you kind of present these as groups, like all the value list ones together would make sense. So
he's done a couple as groups, but he's kind of also working down the list at the same time.
I get that. No, it's this is all good. All this material, people, once again, you don't have to memorize it. I think I've been doing this 34 years, whatever it is, and you don't memorize all of it. You can't unless you're like some sort of triple super high IQ person. The issue is just to remember that something's in there that this rings a bell and you know to go hunt for it, as opposed to I've never thought of that, right? And then maybe either you haven't been to enough developer conferences, you haven't watched Richard enough, or watch other blogs or videos. So scroll down. So data type and locale work the same, except that they affect only how much this function determines uniqueness. The data is not sorted. Uniqueness is determined in the same manner. Yeah, it's not super clear, right? Anyone have a thought on this one besides just stick a 2 in there and see what happens, or stick a 1 in there, right? Come up with different values.
Go and see what it does.
So I'll scroll down for a second. Scroll down for a second. That's the way we normally use it. Example 2 is how we normally use it. We just stick a value in there. That's all we do. We don't put all the other in there. That's how I always see it. That's why when you said, oh, there's this parameter you stick in, I'm like, what the hell is that? Whenever we see it at RCC, it's always like this. All you do is you feed it the list and out comes the unique values. That's all there is to it. So it has to do with, it only affect how this function determines. So it's a factor of uniqueness. Uniqueness is determined in the same manner as for indexing. Yeah, that has to do with language types and Unicode English. Yeah. So once again, international language. If you're not getting unique values or a little funky, then maybe you want to look into that. But that's why we never, because normally by default, at least for us here in the United States and Europe, depends on if you're speaking German or something else, you have the default language and the indexing is based upon that language, which means this is going to base its unique values based upon your language, right? We all understand that. That's where you go into field definitions real quick, Margaret. Find a file real quick, go to field definitions and go to auto enter options. Okay, find a field, just click at any field.
Oh.
Okay, and then hit storage.
Yeah.
Okay, right there, hold. Default language, that's the indexing right there. Well, indexing is the thing above tells you whether it's a minimal or all. Don't worry about that. But the language is where it is. So that's normally going to be, see? And then here's the thing. This gets back, this indexing stuff gets back into some really interesting stuff because it allows you can, there's reserved characters in FileMaker and finds, right? Like asterisks and things like that, or the ampersand or at, like email Rick at RC Consulting. If you put those in a find, they do different weird things. But if you change the indexing on the field to Unicode, and it used to be ASCII, click on that, go back at the top, it should, maybe it's at the bottom, then go to the very bottom. There it is.
Default
there, Unicode. Yeah, default would have been English. Unicode is where it takes all those special characters. And so like in FileMaker, for those of you who are not advanced developers, a capital A and a little case A or a big R and a little R are the same. FileMaker makes it simple for you. It treats them as the same. But if you switch this to Unicode, then you do a search or a sort or something, big R and little r are different. They're different. They have different, because technically they're different characters, right?
So when you do that, would you not be able to use all the special characters for?
Correct. They're all disabled for that field. This is a field specific setting. And this is also what that unique values is talking about. By default, it's going to use whatever you had in here for your default language, right? But if it's not giving you what you want, you need to go in there and dig into this deeper. I've never had it not work, but
interesting. Okay.
Interesting, eh? So this is back to this indexing. Indexing drives the finds, it drives the sorts, it also drives the relationship between two sides of the relationship, parent and child side, right?
We have a question from David asking about whether or not unique values is case sensitive, because he noticed that red, green, and yellow. Red is all caps.
Yeah, why don't we try it, Margaret? Why don't you just do a demo for everyone? Let's go
Sure.
over and grab the one that you already wrote for the one. Does it cancel? Go to the
Uh,
data viewer. Go to the data viewer. That'd be the easiest way to
uh,
simulate this.
okay, so tools, data viewer.
See, Margaret's getting good at this. I'm making her drive because I'm here at the airport. And it's probably better that I
I
don't
guess I'd have
drive.
to add a value into
Yep.
watch.
There you
So
go. So
then
unique value
Okay.
values. Hit that, and then you're just in there. I think you're going to put. No, they grab that whole thing. You're not going to put the thing in the brackets you don't need. So you're just going to put. You can put real values in there. So put quote red in quotes.
Mm-hmm.
Then is it a semicolon or a comma? Just put a
we'll do comma
first, then put comma, then put quote blue. Okay, it's mad. It doesn't like that. Close quote.
So
put semicolon. Yep. Quote blue in quotes. Okay. And then click out. What are we doing wrong? What's it mad about? Go back and look at your example.
Do I have to make a value list first?
You have to put I'm sorry. It's a value list with returns. That's what a value list is. It returns in there, Margaret. Not so it's one string, one string. Delete again. One more delete.
Okay.
Nope. One. Okay. Then the little paragraph.
Oh, the little paragraph thingy.
Yes, that's the return thingy. I don't know what you call it. Anyone who's an official English major can tell me. There you go. Now, close quote. There you go. So little red and big red are the same here. Okay. So that's that. Once again, you're getting the dumbed down version of simplicity that FileMaker offers for most users. Most users consider little red and big red to be the same thing. Okay. Makes sense. But you could change that coding in there. Probably now it's a semicolon, probably. Put a 1 on there just for fun. Just put a 1 on there. Okay. Go back and put a 2.
I'm confused.
I don't know what those do. We have to find a list of what those do, but that's where you screw with the indexing on how this is evaluated. Does that make sense, Margaret?
Yeah. Request from NJ. Now try that with different parameters. Red and red are different.
I know that's what we're trying. Put zero in there, Margot. But get rid of.
So 0 pulls up the same thing that 1 did.
Okay, 2. It might correspond to because it says go down there and choose a language and indexing, right? So if you were going to choose a language for indexing or something, click on that. Just click that link just for fun. See what happens. I'm not going to read this for all of us right now, but this is where this gets into this, right? Most of the time, we don't have a problem with this, but if you have a problem, this is where you're going to want to make an adjustment on that, okay? All right, so next function on our function list
is upper.
Yeah, upper. That just turns everything to uppercase, right? So
it just caps locks everything?
Basically, it's not, what's the term they have for that? It's, hit upper. So returns all the letters as uppercase, right? Very simple function. Right.
If you want to normalize state abbreviations or postal codes. Okay.
Yeah, it makes sense for that. This is like trim. It's pretty easy, right? Scroll down. Does it say similar to other things? Yeah. You'd use that like on an end number on an aircraft or something like that because there's no little ends. It's all big ends.
Got it.
In Canada, it's C, I think, CA or something. All right, cool. Next function. Moving right along. Word value count. So keep your stuff up there, Margaret. Keep your string.
Okay.
Keep your string. No, you glued that. Undo that. Very good. Now change that front part to value count, not unique values, value count. So how many is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Should be 6, right? 6. There we go. Okay. Now put an extra return in the middle somewhere. Like just like a double one right there. Yeah. No. Well, you put it needs to be encoded as the paragraph thingy, right?
Oh, put another paragraph thingy? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. See, so it's really a count of like how many returns are essentially in there or slots there are. But you could have a bogus value, right? So that's where you want to trim out, filter out, and get rid of.
That's what you would do. Unique values, and then you do the value count of the unique values.
Well, try unique values on top of this, right? I don't know what that. I don't think this gets into a conversation of taking lists apart, which I'm not the best person to do that on because I don't do it every day.
Which would come first, unique values or value count? Okay,
well, you're going to insist upon this, right? So value count is on the outside. So on the inside would be unique values.
Okay.
Okay, then you have to
That,
trim that crap
then,
out and then
then
get rid of that. No.
I'm copying.
Yeah, just move it in. Oh, you're gonna move it inside. Okay, yeah, copy cut. Move it on the inside
And
to
then,
that one, stick it in there. Okay, hold.
huh?
So it got rid of the space.
Interesting.
Put a couple more paragraphs in there for fun.
Yeah, sure.
It just in there, put a couple more, like 2 or 3 or 4 more. Okay, click out.
Huh. So it still counts the fact that there's repeat values, but it won't count the extra spaces.
Okay, so understand that we're talking about a value list. It's
Mhm.
basically a one-dimensional array. What's an array? If you understand what a repeating field is, a repeating field is a one-dimensional array. It's a box, and then it's a box that it's like cells, like one column of cells in Excel. So position 1, position 2, position 3, position 4. This is the same: red, orange, blue, blank, blue, big red, big purple. Then the next 3 or 4 slots underneath it are blank, 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 right? And so those blank spots are specifically, they are slots. I'm using the word slot, but they're positions within the list.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that doesn't necessarily give you valuable insight into your data. If you're running a report for someone and you're counting the spaces up there, okay, then you have a problem. Now, what'd you just do here? You just added some more
I just
shenanigans.
inserted a white betweens from the random returns.
Oh, yeah, and it added one more, right?
Yeah.
There you go. So value count, and you see how these get together. So I've seen like some engineers we have, the very senior people, they code all day, every day, and they will wind value count with get values with this and that, and they just do this very elaborate construction of value lists. That's a good topic to have. It's one we would probably have Jonathan or Christian or someone do, because they're, like I said, while you and I are doing this slower, that's better for people who are learning, because when we stumble, it slows us down and they get it. But for advanced developers, they're like, oh, Richard, you're boring me. It's horrible. It's so boring.
Stu, it looks like unique values includes one blank. Red and capital red are the same. But I kind of thought that that was the point, right? It's not, with value count, it's not getting rid of the duplicates. It's just counting how many actual words there are.
Okay, so stop. Unique values processes first. Okay. And then value count processes. So it's inside, outside, whatever that my old lady Marge milks cows or whatever that acronym is. You guys know what I'm talking about, but it's
PEMDAS?
inside to outside. What's it?
Oh,
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, whatever that is. There's always little mnemonics that help you remember this, but you start from the inside, and the most inside item in here is unique values with that string. It generates the list of unique values. Then it passes that to the next function outside, which is value count.
which is interesting.
So one function is nested inside another function. So so when it processes it, it denests, it evaluates from inside to outside. Would you say PEMDAS? Is that what that was?
Yeah, PEMDAS means that parentheses goes first. So,
Well, whatever the most inside parentheses are, and
yeah.
that's where these little highlights and things go on here. This is where Monkey Bread is kicking and doing stuff. I've been doing a lot. I spent 6 hours yesterday coding for BVA on their helicopter stuff, and I was horribly dependent upon Monkey Bread to give me my variable names and stuff. It's fabulous product. We expect Christian Schmidt to be here at
I had a person ask me the other day whether or not something was MBS or part of base FileMaker. I'm like, I've used MBS for so long that I can't tell you anymore.
Yeah. Unfortunately, but it's, it is what it is. So moving along, next function, word count, pretty straightforward. So this is the number of words you have, right? This one's kind of, it's not so much that anything Claris did wrong. It's just math and computers and ASCII and indexing. Once again, we're back to this. What does a letter represent? Yeah, get rid of. Yeah, there we go. So here you got word count. Now, if you put red and then put space after red, but put just
put a space
right there. Okay, space. Put green.
Oh, like green.
Just put the cursor in there and don't move it. Okay, now we have 8, right?
Oh.
Now I put space. Now I put a dash. Now there's 2 dashes on the keyboard, everyone. I'm looking at my delete key, and then to the left of the delete key is a plus, an equal key, and to the left, the third one from the left from the delete on my Mac laptop, it's a big dash across the top and a little dash across the bottom.
I use the non-shift one. So
okay, so try that one. Hit space again. Okay, did that change? No. Change it to the little dash. Oh, that's an underscore. Okay, that one. Okay. Where's the little dash? There's two different dashes in here. Anyway,
Are you talking about the squiggle? Like this
well,
thing?
the tilde thing, right? You got that. So what ends up happening is that put 555 on there. 555. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
See,
it went up.
that's a word, right? So what constitutes a word? So there are situations where certain characters next to certain numbers cause it not to be a word. Okay. Just so all of you understand that there is some potential subtle funkiness in here, not to scare anyone off. I use word count all the time. But if you're trying to calculate the landing of the Mars rover, like the Japanese were doing the other day, and I love the Japanese. Margaret knows what I'm talking about. You see this news story?
No, actually, I haven't. So.
Oh, okay. Margaret, do a search for the photo of the Japanese moon lander. Okay, that thing is upside down. Okay, so a number of times NASA has up reentries and things like that because they forget to carry the zero and the little subtle math things that go on, or the Beagle lander crashed because they were in metrics and they were in instead of imperial units, so they got their units all cross line, so they crashed the landers and millions of dollars. So the Japanese managed to turn this thing right side over. It flipped itself over, but they were like, oh, we've lost communication. They're trying to figure it out to get a photo of it. The thing is upside down. It's like a car upside down the freeway. You know, I saw that last night on the freeway in Dallas. People racing muscle cars, and then they crashed literally in front of me, and one of them was upside down, sliding on a roof. Okay, so those people are just stupid. These people here are really smart, but something boo-booed up, and someone messed up the math. So my warning is if you're doing lander math, be very careful with the word count to make sure it's going to do exactly what you think, because there's some subtleties. It's where the rubber meets the road, and you could have like a zero and a word, or the number entering and beginning in the word and spaces. It's just how it counts. There's like 2 or 3 paragraphs of text by Claris describing how it works. So instead of me explaining that to you, just caution to check it before you bet the farm on it, or your Japanese lander. You don't want to be upside down. All right, moving along, Margaret. Next one, we're moving on to text formatting. I am not going to, let's take a look at this real quick. Okay, I got my phone. Text color, text font, remove, font color. We need like a demo of these. Do we want to do these right now, or do we want to hit number for me? We could jump down to number. Let me see. Those are pretty straightforward. Yeah, let's do these here. These will be a little bit easier to do.
So none of these really make sense to me, so feel free to just...
Okay, so on the text ones, or we want to jump down to number? Do we have a vote for people?
I'm looking at number.
Okay, so absolute number. Just click. Let's bring up the help on the help, but we'll go through it that way. But absolutes are, what it does is it basically returns a positive number no matter what you have. So scroll down there, you'll see what I'm talking about. Scroll down. Absolute value of the number is positive, for example, negative. So all absolute is if you have a -5 and you take absolute, it turns it to +5. I haven't needed this too awful. It goes way back to the olden days, but it's there. So the first example is ABS, -123 results in a 123. Okay.
And then it looks at the field to make sure.
All it does is it just makes it positive. It's not positive. Okay, that's what it does. So it could be useful if you're doing some fancy math. Ceiling's interesting. You might need this. Go to ceiling. Let's do that. Before you go there, let's look at the description. Questions along the way from people. You're more likely, well, the text and color ones are good. You'll end up using them, but I want to have more of a pre-practice presentation on those for you. These are pretty cookie cutter. Returns a number rounded up to the next integer, right? So if you scroll down, it's a ceiling. So 1.25 returns in 2. Okay. What's higher? What's larger? This is a tricky question for people who don't done a lot of math. What's a number bigger than, larger than -1.25? Remember, you're on the other side of the zero, right?
If you're constantly hitting that, yeah, okay. If you're going right, then it would be 1.
See, I'm an engineer, Margaret, and you're a liberal arts major. Just what happens.
Yes.
So for her, Margaret's like, well, the psychology of the number, it didn't want to go that way.
Look, my math is just a couple hundred years out of date. It's fine.
Yes, a couple hundred years out of date. So yeah, so that's what that does. No big deal. So ceiling is really useful. It's basically rounding up without giving it all the specs on rounding up to the next whole number. Okay, combination. What's this? What is this?
I accidentally stacked them. Well, that's fine.
Doesn't matter. Hit combination. I don't think I've ever used. Has anyone here ever used combination? Returns the number of unique ways to choose the number. Oh, it has to do with statistics. I never took statistics.
Pascal's triangle. Okay.
Yeah, let's not do that.
I'm feeling my dearth of mathematical knowledge really strong right about now.
Well, listen, we don't, yeah, okay. Yeah, if you're a math major or, yeah, just a math major, even engineers don't, for the most part, know this unless they're doing some sort of statistics. Statistics is always people, I heard more F words in people taking statistics classes than anything else at the university. So that and some of the bio-sci stuff.
Oh,
All right.
that's an interesting fact from Karsten Belling in Twitch. Absolute with value -1 toggles or value -1 toggles a Boolean. So
Really? Okay. All sorts of little nuggets of knowledge here. So we're going to skip this one. Div, once again, is kind of a, go back to div is the next one. Some of these go back to, if you like, you're a financial planner, you're writing financial software, could be really useful. Returns the next lowest integer after dividing. So yeah, when you do division, right, you have the whole number of times it goes in there, then you have the remainder. It allows you to chuck those things around.
oh, so it
right?
rounds the result after you include
Yeah, it's
decimals?
basically the whole number that it goes through. The whole number it divides into evenly, right?
Okay.
And it chucks the remainder. So div x, that's, I think it's exponent, right? I'm going to skip factorial. Hit exp in your search, Margaret. We'll cover that one real quick. That also, while we're at it, it's the opposite of logarithmic, I think. It's the exponent, right? Is this exponents? Yeah. So it's the inverse of the log function, logarithmic function, right? So, or ln, right? So yeah. So this is all, once again, I haven't literally used this ever. I use algebra all the time in basic problem solving and stuff. Like, if Dick is on a train going 35 miles an hour, how long does it take Dick to get to Austin? And not being serious. That stuff is useful. This is not, right? As a general rule, right? So
you said this for like, if you're like a heavy financial database or something like that, if you're doing a lot of,
sure.
I don't know.
So div, exponential, factorial, skip that. Hit floor. Floor is a good one. Floor and ceiling used to be on the certification test. Floor is the opposite of ceiling, I believe.
Oh,
right?
So
it
rounds the other way.
It rounds down. So ceiling rounds up to the nearest whole number. Floor rounds down to the nearest whole number. Okay.
Okay.
Those are pretty useful. Then integer, hit int. This is like drops the digits to the right. So this is like a kind of a truncate kind of command, that kind of idea. So if you have 1.45, you get 1. So it's the whole number with no rounding. So really it's ceiling, floor, and in between is integer. This was on the test too. Used to be. Okay. Because that's a good one to know, right? You just want to trim the decimals off because it doesn't matter, right? A lot of times we just always say rounding because that's what we were taught in schools to round. But the word round, you have to put some additional specifications in there.
Yeah,
round
rounding up, rounding down.
Round down, round by how much, how many decimals. That's in here. That's still supported. If you go down, let's just go to round, Margaret. Let's just jump to round.
Okay. Cool.
And then we'll go to random after that because random is actually really useful. All right, so round. So there we go. So here's your round. And then the precision is whether it rounds the number of decimals. So it's going to keep 2. And the example 1 down there, you see it's going to keep 2 decimals. If you have 0 so round is interesting with 0 because if you put 14, Margaret, do me a favor, put 14 points, do a round, do 14.7 with 0, 14.7, 0.7, and then put a 0 in there. And what are we going to get? Is it going to go up or down? It goes up. So I was thinking that round 0 was like integer, but integer doesn't move it up or down. Round is still working. Round still works no matter what you do. It's just how much it's going to show you. Okay. If you that makes sense.
So this is like what, ceiling? No matter what happens if, or does it just?
Well, if you go that way, it goes the other way. Goes the floor. That's floor. That's a floor function.
Got it.
Right.
Okay. So it's
makes sense.
flexible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This stuff actually is pretty useful. Floor, ceiling, integer, absolute. Those are good. Random. Let's talk about random. Generating a random number. And I can't remember because generating real random numbers is a thing, especially with encryption. It's become a big thing, and some of you know about this. The random function. Let's just see if it says. Scroll down in the notes.
It's called pseudo random. Interesting.
Yeah, because it's not really. So just scroll down for a second. So there's 2 issues here. One, this thing will generate a number between 0 and 1. So it gives you this decimal number. And whenever I want a random number, I want a random number that
It's a whole number?
Is a whole number. And so there are some custom functions that you go to Brian Dunning's website. We probably have one in starting point, knowing how long that's been around. And you put a random in there and you put a range, like a low number and a high number, which makes more sense. This one came out back. This is like FileMaker 3 or FileMaker 2. It goes way back. So
you have to include integer in order to get it to actually not be a decimal.
Try that. See if that'll work.
So
but that's
integer.
And then put random.
Random, and then
that's it.
And then what happens if you multiply it?
Just kick that. No, kick it out. Okay, well. Okay.
See, okay, interesting. Because it tells you right here, if you multiply it, then it'll give you a random number between 1 and 0.
I know, but that's not to me obvious. It'd be better if you had a random function and then the two parameters were beginning and ending. Now that's so that is getting the output you want. The other part with random that we ran into this about a year ago, it got into this whole conversation about UUID being unique, right? And the problem is computers aren't fundamentally random. They can pretend they're random, but they're not really random. And so what companies do, I remember we were talking about this. Someone was taking, they were taking radiation readings from the sky, randomized from random atmospheric data, and using that as a seed number to put into their functions to generate legitimate random items for encryption, right? Crazy stuff, because they had no way, they had to go to like a very analog way of measuring the bits of radiation in the sky to put the seed number into their formula to make sure that it was truly random. Really interesting. And so UUID, as people always said, so here's the deal. I know historically that random in here is kind of a random number, not so great. I mean, it's good enough for a quickie, but if you're going to put the lottery ticket on it, you're running the California State Lottery, you could have 100 winners real easy by accident if they're all doing random stuff. So what you do is UUID in my mind was the same way, because they were generating this random string and they said, oh, it can only be repeated 13 billion times. Like I said, random generates duplicates easy, right? Not just arbitrary. You can get it to reproduce duplicates where it shouldn't really be doing that, right? And so UUID uses an additional level of calculations to make it even more randomy not being an official word, but that's how that works. So consider two things: the values that you want out, and then how random you really want it to be, right? And if you really want a super duper really random number, you might want to go out to a service with an API or something, right? Where they can, I'm sure you can pay them and they'll give you like a legit random number for encryption. So next on the list, the random was good. So that was good. SetPrecision.
We didn't do LG or LN, but I don't know.
Those are logarithmic things. You don't have to worry about that. I would skip all those. Mod, that's another worth. That used to be on the test. Round, we did round. SetPrecision. Go see what SetPrecision is, because I'm wondering, I don't think I've ever, has anyone here used a SetPrecision ever? Interesting. Computes any math function with a precision up to 400. Yeah, decimals to the right. Yeah, and this goes back to what was the problem with it was back in the day with the Pentium computers, and their randomness, or if you went so many characters, they quit working or something, or they would give bad data, because it was cooked into all the hardware on all the chips that Intel made for the Pentiums back in the day. It caused a huge uproar. So that had to do with precision, lots of characters in the precision.
Oh, Canberra said they used it, but it's been a while. So
yeah. So once again, this is if you're trusting FileMaker to do some really gnarly math. Once again, I would validate the FileMaker is going to work correctly, because I know random is not really random enough for me. Precision, you just want to make sure it's going to deliver what you think it should. Next one down the list: set, sine, square root. Okay, sine, square root. Oh, this tells you whether it's a sine. Tells you whether it's positive or negative. Oh. That's interesting. I've never used that. When was that created? Go back up. What was it? Oh, FileMaker. Okay, it goes back to the dawn of time with dinosaurs. I don't remember that. So that's interesting. It gives you the sign. I just learned something new. I haven't seen that. Square root, we'll leave that. Truncate is interesting. So truncate.
I've heard the word truncate before.
Truncate is a word that we use a couple different places. And what we'll do is we'll cover the other truncate, because one reason Nick's not here is he's dealing with kind of this wayward database that he spun up. And he's using Truncate to kind of fix it. I have to ask him how it went. So Truncate, can we go to Truncate? Oh, we got it right here. I'm sorry. Returns the number truncated specified number of decimals. So what was the one that chopped before? Was that integer that just chopped it? What was the one that just lopped off the decimal? That's where I get these confused. Someone want to help with this?
Ceiling and integer and floor chops off the decimal. That just
floor and ceiling chop. But what does integer do? Go to integer. Pop a new one with integer if you can do that. Just do.
Oh yeah, hold on. Yeah, this one just chops the decimal. There you go.
So what's the difference between this and the truncate? Drops the digits to the right of decimal point. This one says returns the truncated number, a specified number. So
this one you don't have the option of what decimal point you'd want to pick, and this one.
Yeah. So Claris could have done is they could have gone to integer and added the second option, but it would have broke people's solutions. That's why we have two functions. You're like, hey, this one was created in 1912 with the Pony Express, and this one's like modern. Yeah. So that's the deal. So they do truncate to give you more flexibility. They create a new function. You're like, well, that's so sloppy. They should change the other one. The problem is they change it. It could break people's stuff. They don't break. They try not. Okay. The goal is to. What I was meeting with Peter Nelson, he had on his wall still is one of their North Stars, their guiding principles, not to retroactively break people's shit. I think it actually said that. Okay. But they make it nicer, but they want to honor your solution is to not break it is an important guiding principle at Claris. So yeah, so that's why you have these two things and they're very, very similar. All right. So pivot down to the next one, which was very interesting, Margaret. I wanted to jump after truncate. Oh, let's go. Just for a moment.
Earlier truncate.
The other truncate. Right? So let's go to script workspace. Different thing.
Okay.
This is also one of those things we have like with SQL.
I have to cancel.
With SQL, there's the SQL execute SQL function or something, and then there's the execute SQL script step. Two things, totally different. So go into here, create a script. Just type, just go down a little bit, and then type truncate. There we go. Click on that. Okay. So. And you specify the table. So truncate table kind of, so if you see the word truncate, that just means someone took a cleaver and they lopped off a body part or something, right? And so the other one lops off numbers those are numbers, right? Lops off numbers. This one lops off all the records in a table. Okay, so here's what happens last night. I'm not telling story on Nick. So Nick is doing PSOS. He's like, up in his stuff, doing all this amazing stuff. And what happens is he gets a PSOS script that starts creating records. Okay, and you're like, that's cool. But then his computer crashes, so he kind of loses sight of the fact that the PSOS was running. Well, the PSOS was on a fire and forget mission from hell, right? So it's like he fired a missile that's auto homing, and it's fire and forget. So you fire the missile, and then you move off, and you look at the next target. Well, Nick, basically, the guy fires the missile, then Nick dies, blows up. The missile's still flying. That missile created 68 gigabytes of data in a FileMaker file. We're like, dude, how do we deal with this, right? Because we don't want to destroy the database, but you have all these. So I kept generating records after day after day. And so Jacob Taylor, some of you know Jacob, goes, hey, you got a database with 68 gigs. And Dick goes, there's no way there's 68 gigs in there, right? Jacob doesn't know what he's talking about. Jacob's one of the smartest people I know. So now they're trying to run the truncate command, and truncate is a very, very fast, high performance carpet bombing. It destroys everything inside the table. And what's interesting about it, it was created by Clay Mackle at Claris. I think David McKee helped with that. And what it does is it deletes everything. But normally when you run a delete command, it's kind of slow because delete command is like going, oh, I'm deleting out of this table. And are there any related records? And should I delete the cascading delete? And should I think about that? I'm gonna have to delete the index and I only want to delete some of it and only certain records. And so it's doing all this shit it's trying to do. And it's why it goes so slow. And we're like, dude, we need a function. It's just like, here's a grenade, pull the pin, throw it in there, dead. Okay. And that's what this is. This is literally, it chops everything. There's no like, I'd like to save 5 records. No. This is utter total destruction.
So how would he not destroy the data he already has? If you do like a find after a certain date?
He had a bunch of tables, and this one table had gone bonkers. So we decided that he would sacrifice the contents of one table. It's a development database. It's not production. But he still has sample data in there, and so he's going to have to kind of reconstruct that. But 68 gigs, the database should have been a gig or two, maybe, if that, max. Okay, and it was 68 gigs. I said, are you putting all your containers stored inside the data? Because when something says 68 gigabytes, I like, dude, 68 gigs, your containers are stored inside the file. Bad. And Jacob's squealing like a pig, right? Servers like lights are going off, blinky lights, hard drives filling up out of space. Because it's then every time you run a backup, it's 68 gigs and 68 gigs and 68 gigs and 68 gigs, right? Lots of fun. So that truncate is the when Captain Kirk enters the auto destruct on the starship, then they run off the starship and it blows up. That's that. There will be no survivors unless you get off before it blows. So Nick ran that on the server on a PSOS command, told the truncate to run on the server. I had to find out how that went. It should work, but I'm like,
We did truncate, so I guess it's number pretty much taken care of because the other ones that we didn't do
we're
were
about
not.
running out of time here. Let's cover questions. Make sure people have questions. We're covering that. I know we're kind of bounced around today, but it's good stuff. And tomorrow will be a little better, and I'll probably bring some help. But
people
tomorrow we might
want to do text formatting, or rather, some of the newer people that I recognize on.
Okay, we will. I need to find a victim to do a good. I want to do a quality job, and if I don't do it, it's not because I hate everyone's guts. It's because I can't do the quality job that I know you
You could
expect.
probably go like hunt Calvin down.
Go ahead and look at date. Have you guys covered dates at all? Dates or
Nick talked about date, but my head was spinning, so there was
okay.
a lot of different date.
So let's do a little planning here with the people on Discord. So you folks want to he did dates? So dates good, right? Because dates is a good one to know. Date and time is almost identical. So once you know dates, then you just like calibrate for time. It's the same. Once you know how those functions work. I'm waiting for feedback.
I am also waiting for people to say if whether they want to recover date or cover date again, kind of. Or
well, we don't want to cover it again if you guys are happy with where it went. If Nick did a good job with it, that's fine. I mean, I'm assuming if he covered, did a good job. Time would be the same way. Timestamp is kind of a funky.
Oh, that's familiar.
Two-headed chicken. We could always cover that. Margaret, you could present on that.
Oh, that was fun and painful.
We got a really good sample file that Andy Lacates and the sales engineers made at Claris years ago on this stuff. When this stuff came out.
Oh.
Because you also have the encryption in there, so you can actually encrypt data. So we could cover both of those if you wanted to. We could do that tomorrow. There's a sample file for this. Yeah. I think those came out in FileMaker 14. Do the
Get, of course.
Yeah. Well, have you been covering Git? You've been doing Gits, right? Or have you not done Gits?
I don't think. I think if the Get was relevant, that it popped up like get date and crap like that. But
okay, because a lot of this we deal with, but some of them are pretty out there in the weeds, right? So
I never understood why we discussed it before, but I still don't understand.
Okay, so this will be we'll close with this. So go ahead and bring this up in the help.
Okay.
Oh, is there two of them?
I'm trying to figure out like why there's get as number and then there's also get and then parentheses. Why isn't it just get?
The answer is not a great answer. But I think one has to do with operating system and interface issues at the client level, and the other ones are not. I believe something along those lines. Get functions, monitor errors and scripts, capture information, status about actions being performed. Yeah. So if you want looking for that answer, Margaret, Beth put me on the spot with a really hard question.
Oh,
right?
Sorry.
Well, because the worst part is people say it's a get, right? But if I say get container attribute, you put get, then you put parentheses, you type container attribute, it doesn't show up. Get container attribute is one of these other ones, right? Because it's getting data about the inside of the database. It's not doing interface or OS level things. That makes sense. So
that makes sense. And then Stu also says that the get parentheses functions don't allow expressions like fields, calcs, or whatever.
And that's the other part of that. The Claris separates them, right, Stu? And it causes problems for intermediate senior developers because here's the thing. I'm telling you to kind of vaguely remember like the TrimAll, okay? But what if it was called get trim and get TrimAll, right? And what if it was spelled get TrimAll with no parentheses in there, right? Or trim, and once again, so if people start looking for it, they can't find it, they get frustrated, and all they're doing is not realizing there's two groups of get functions, right? So yes, Stu is correct on that. You can put parameters into it.
We have, yeah, okay,
we're kind
that makes sense. We have two requests that we cover logical, so. These, yes.
Well, some of them, let me see. So yeah, we'd probably get Calvin to help with some of these. I use about a third of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some of them are like high traffic areas. So a lot of people use a lot of LED action. let and while, and I don't use enough of those to be an expert in them,
I
right?
think
Because I don't need
Calvin
them.
once claimed that the let function was his favorite function ever, so you can probably...
Yeah, so then I'm just going to put a gun to his head and tell him he has to do it tomorrow. Actually, I don't know when he flies in. So we are at top of the hour. So if you have questions or comments about Engage specific or this topic at all, send us an email to support RC Consulting.
Thank you everyone for coming. We will see all of you tomorrow. Theoretically, we should be here tomorrow. Goodbye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir!